Welcome back to Chapter 1. This is the podcast where we sit down and we talk about media. We specifically go over films, books, and music. And today we are talking about a book titled The Creative Act, A Way of Being, written by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin is a producer that has had his hands in so many projects. I was looking at his accomplishments and the list was just so dense with some of Hollywood's biggest people, smaller people. It just kind of seems like a nice healthy range of individuals and a range of genres that they all feel like they're in the pop range, but different ends of the pop spectrum, I guess, is how I would describe it. So it's really interesting. It seems like he's been a creative for the majority of his life, and he just made his living producing music and has now become it almost feels like a philosophical character. I've seen him on podcasts recently that speak about human experience and the philosophy behind it. So it feels like he's held this perspective his entire life, but it feels like he is having a glow up in the philosophical realm. I picked up his book because I was attracted to the cover. If you have not seen this book cover, it's this really beautiful dove gray that just has a circle within a circle on it in black. The design and the title are engraved into the book, so it's very minimalistic, which is why I think I was attracted to it. I had no idea what the book was about when I first picked it up. I opened it in my local bookstore and just started going through the pages, and I was like, oh wow, okay, so this is a book that is about creating, and it's from the perspective of Rick Rubin and how he thinks that people should be creating, which I really, really enjoy most of his perspective in this book. I don't think people should be told how to create, I guess. So let's actually reword that to how he suggests people should be creating. His encouragement in this book it's really fun, but there are also things that I don't agree with, which I think he would enjoy, and I'll get into why I think he would like that in a moment. But essentially, this book, if I had to sum it up, it would feel like a philosophical stand behind creativity and why artists do what they do and why they should do what they do. I think I was definitely raised in a time where art was not considered a career, which is it's so heartbreaking when I really think about it, because if I think about people getting paid to do what they're really, really good at, and if they're paid to make art, I just can't even imagine how different the world would be. Well, I can start to imagine, but hopefully one day I'll be able to really understand. And I think actually, as I'm thinking about this, now more than ever, I think creatives have this upper hand, or there's change happening around creative careers because of tools like social media and just the way that the world is turning these days. There is more opportunity for people to have creative careers now, it feels like, more than ever. Is it hard? I guess, yeah, because the industry is so saturated and so dense, but on the flip side, no matter what you're creating, even if you're doing something similar to somebody else, it's still you. It's you creating that. So it'll never be a copy of anybody else's work because your energy is put into it, right? I don't think you should go out and copy people exactly work for work. I think you should put your own twist on it, and I think a true creative artist would respect that too. People who are out copying people word for word or image for image, I don't deem those people artistic creatives. Is that creative? Yes, because you're creating something in the world, but you're not doing it from passion, you're doing it from some other goal, which I don't condone. I think like if you're gonna create something, do it from your heart and have like the moral responsibility to not copy someone exactly. Back to Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, A Way of Being. He encourages readers to do several things when they're thinking about creating. He does state that people who are artists have no choice but to create, which I think is a really good point. I've always had a drive to create since I was small. People in my life who are creatives and artists, they produce these things not because they're told to, but because they just can't seem to see their lives moving any other way, which I think is really beautiful. They feel this need to create something, they create it, and then the world gets to enjoy it. One of the many kind of sadnesses around creating something is that even if the artist sits down with you and explains every single thing that you're seeing in their work, you may never be able to truly understand the emotion, the story, what have you. But the point is to try and understand. Yes, it's pretty. Yes, design is, like, it's all subjective, right? Like, art is up to the viewer. And I guess a lot of artists, you know, they could want the viewer to understand exactly what was going on when they were creating something, but I think a lot of artists don't too. Like I have pieces in my house that I have no idea what the journey behind it was, but it like has impacted me in some way that I felt like I needed to have it. And it's interesting to think about the reason that someone creates something and the reason that someone consumes something, and how different or how similar those things can be. And right now it feels like I'm contradicting myself, because like it feels like I want people to know the message behind my art, but I've never really sat down and explained it to people. Mostly because some of it I don't want them to know, some of it I do. Sometimes I'm not confident enough to be like, this is why I did this. Can you understand it? You know, and sometimes I feel like people don't need to know that. So I am pretty sure I just contradicted myself in 100 different ways there, but you know, hopefully you pulled something out of that. Ultimately, the reason I got into that spiel is because Rick Rubin believes that artists have no other choice but to create. It is just a natural pull, and I do completely agree with that. I think that the people that I know in my life just feel like they have no choice, but it's not like a bad thing. They're passionate about it. They want to create these things. They want the world to see them, and so they create them in the physical space. I love that thought. I love that idea. I think he's right. And he goes into this really beautiful perspective of when to create, when not to create, and provides these examples of why you should create and when you shouldn't create. The most fun perspective is that you should create something you're thinking of as soon as you think about it. Which is unrealistic because life has so many other things that it demands from us, right? Like some of us work full time and some of us have children, some of us, you know, life just pulls us in different directions. So yes, I do agree and love the idea of dropping everything to create something, but not all of us are allowed to live life that way yet. I'll get there one day. But he encourages this because he believes that when you have a creative idea, that is the universe going, create this, do it right now. And if you don't create it, somebody else somewhere will. And I love the idea of the universe or the one being or what have you being like, I want this thing to happen. I need someone to do it. So it just kind of pings around the planet through all the different artists until one of the artists is like, oh my god, I need to create this right now. I love that idea. It's kind of like, it feels like another nod to us all being, in one form or another, this one being, and our individuality is just a manifestation of being an individual. So I loved that idea. That's the part of the book that I recognized that I was like, oh, okay, I need to read this entire thing. I need to commit to this and just see what else comes up. While he does state that you should create as soon as you have an idea, he also does encourage rest and the understanding of a creation happening when it's meant to. So obviously people can get burnt out, and you really do need to rest when it comes to creativity, especially if it's like something that is emotional as well, which from my perspective most art is. I've had pieces that I've worked on that have just pulled so much emotion out of me that I needed to take months after them to rest and recover from the energy that I've put into them. And so I think that the passion-driven side is also balanced by a rest-driven side. And he mentions that mostly in this book. I think he really does believe that people should create when they can and as often as they can if they are driven to do so. He also goes over this idea of being in a creative community, so surrounding yourself with people who are also creatives, who will give you feedback about your work. You can see their work and give them feedback, and it's really good to be amongst like-minded people like that. And I've found that to be totally true. When I was in my first year of art school, I dropped out, let's be real, my only year of art school, I found it so beneficial just to be around creatives, not even to be creating with creatives, but to watch creatives create. Yeah, there you go, you're welcome. Because the energy that was circulating through those groups was inspiring. And I would watch other photographers photograph, I would watch them direct models, I would watch them process film, and it was always inspiring me to commit to my creativity. So I do totally agree with getting yourself into a creative community, even if it's just a few close friends that also create, and getting their opinion and being receptive to that opinion too. Rick Rubin goes over this idea of not having someone look at your work that has the same idea as you. So someone who will always agree that your work is great. You know, you want someone to push back. And it's so valuable to have someone like that in your life. And sometimes I am the person for my creative friends, and it doesn't always go well because criticism is criticism. Because criticism is criticism. We are sensitive to being criticized, most of us, because of ego, because of the way that we were raised, because of the climate right now is just like so combative. And so it's understandable as to why people would be like, what the fuck, dude? I just showed you my vulnerable piece of artwork, like, and you're not telling me it's great. You're telling me what's wrong with it. And it's important to give, I think, criticism in a kind way. I think Rick Rubin mentions this as well. It's good to be kind about the criticism that you give and to be mindful of the environment that you're in and the people that you're speaking to. Some people just cannot take criticism, and that's okay. They simply want to be praised, and that's understandable, and that's okay. I operate like that too. I love hearing that my work is beautiful. That appeals to other people. But another point that Rick Rubin has is forget the fucking audience. Forget them. Like, yes, it's good to be praised. It's good to find people that enjoy your work. But then you're creating for other people. And Rick Rubin's point is to just create and to create for yourself. Do what you want. and let the universe express itself through you. I love the idea of forget the audience, because I think especially now with content creators and everybody being online creating things, that feels like an audience-driven thing. And I think with that, with social media and all of it, we are encouraged to adjust ourselves. I've seen lots of content creators and artists do this. They shift what they're creating to honor what their audience is complaining about in their work, which I totally get it. As an audience member, if you don't like something, that's fine. Walk away. No one is forcing you to be there. If an artist has changed lanes and is pursuing something that's passion for them, let them do that and go find something you're looking for somewhere else. I've seen this so many times where artists are they adjust because of the numbers, and that's another thing that we really have to take into consideration when having this audience conversation is people are trying to make a living from this. So I do understand that. I get that perspective. But Rick Rubin's point about forgetting the audience is just so refreshing and beautiful, and I hope that people can respect that and follow that for their own creativity. And I believe if you follow a creativity that you are extremely passionate about, your audience will just find you and they'll appreciate that version of you. And you will eventually have an audience that respects and supports you and what you're truly passionate about. In that same vein of adjusting to your audience is this idea of competition, and that has created this idea of it's me against them, or I'm doing the same thing as this person is doing, but their numbers are higher, so they must be doing it right, so I should adjust to what they're doing. And that is heavy competition, and I think that I don't want to say that I think that's important. It's important if you're trying to push numbers and if you're trying to make lots of money or whatever off of what you're doing, but again, that kind of shifts away from the creative passion in my mind to a business passion. And Rick Rubin talks about non-competition, and I like that idea too. I like the idea of being in a creative community that doesn't compete against each other but lifts each other up. I've been in the art world where I've seen competition take priority, and I've seen how competition can drive marketing, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to be part of that part of the industry, and it just felt like that one artist would get priority over another because of the bottom line. And so competition feels like it shouldn't exist in the creative world, because we are just all people making these designs or whatever out of raw expression and not out of, I have to do it this way to beat this other person. So I love that concept of non-competition, and kind of ties back into the community of creatives too. Yes, it's good to be considerate of other people's unique talents and the audience that draws in for them, but it's so important to understand that your uniqueness, your individuality is what makes you you, and that can be expressed in your creation too. I've definitely gotten myself lost in trying to mold my photography style to other people's photography styles because I saw that they were doing better, but it truly, I think, has nothing to do with the style, but the way that the person is creating. I think you can absolutely tell the difference between someone who's creating something out of passion and someone who's creating something out of a business deal. It's interesting. It's really interesting to see. It's interesting to see the back end of that world pushing for competition and how it can seem to pay off for some people. But I truly wonder about, their mindset and how they feel about the way that that world works. And this isn't how the world works in absolute. This is a generalization, and this is based on an experience that I had that was very unique and fine point. But like the conversation around the art industry being nasty like that, I guess, has been part of the conversation for so long. But I think, again, we're breaking into this collective mindset of treating people correctly, and we're seeing a shift around that. And it should be, the playing field should be fair. And I think we are seeing a shift towards that. And I'm excited to see where the art industry goes. I'm sure it has come along so far since I've been in the back end of it, because that was like 7 years ago. So I think that we are seeing a shift. Even Rick Rubin's book, Getting Big, feels like a shift in the right direction. It feels like this philosophical, grounded, human perspective towards it, and also feels like it's encouraging us to slow down and really get in touch with the way that we want to create and what we create. This book it's encouraging, I'd say. There are a couple of things that, like I've said previously, I don't necessarily agree with, and that is there's part of it that made me feel like he was saying that you should just push through the resting phase of creation, and I don't agree with that, but that's because of my own lens on life. I think that everything has balance, and that artist burnout is a very, very real thing. I've seen it happen to a lot of people. I've experienced it, but I think that those downtimes are just as important as the creative highs. Our brains and our passions need equal rest, just like our bodies do. But I know that that's not true for everybody. There are people that can just create and push out good work and love the work that they're pushing out and are just driven, and so maybe they're just better artists than I am. I have just been in a place of restoration for a few months now, so I've been really enjoying it because I feel like I can just relax and create when I want to, and this book actually encouraged me to do that. Previously, I would put pressure on myself based on seeing other people create and how much work they create all the time, but this book definitely helped me understand that there has to be downtime. If you have an idea, yes, I think you should create it, but if it's going to burn you out and leave your brain just mushy, I think that you should take that as a sign, and the universe will move that idea to somebody else. And I love that. I truly believe that everything that we're meant to find finds us. And if I'm burnt out when an idea comes to me, then I'll write it down, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be created from me, and I have to let go and allow it to be created by somebody else. And that's actually really exciting because the way that they create it was obviously the way that it was meant to be created. So in my book, they were the artists to take that on, and they have done it the best way. Another idea in this book is that no matter how many drafts or different ways you do something, the first draft is usually the best one. And I've had that happen. I've taken photos where I have this big grand idea and I'm like, okay, I'm going to set up this projector so that it projects on the wall this way, but on my face this way, and blah, 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 blah. And then I take the first shot and it's great. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to keep pushing this until I have something that is beyond great. And I've had it happen time and time again where I'm just like, the first shot is the best one. And I wonder if that is because the passion is up front and there, and it's 100% of the passion and the energy that I feel behind that concept comes out in that first shot. And then the rest of them are just they're just getting a little taste of that passion or that energy. That's a really fun idea. So it's an encouragement to believe in your concept and believe in the first draft of it. I've even done this with podcast episodes where like I've recorded them and then I'm like, I start to think about the things that I went over and the topics that I potentially missed, and I'll go back and record them again, but it like just doesn't feel the same. And so now I've got 2 episodes of a podcast that I don't necessarily believe in. Do I believe that you should trust every single action that you take because it will lead you to something else? Yes. So I do really enjoy this like first draft is the best draft idea that he speaks about. This whole book is just like really grounding and philosophical and encouraging to artists out in the world today. I know that it can feel really overwhelming. It can feel really competitive. The industry is really dense, but we also have to accept that not every single person on this planet is a creative artist. So the way that we choose to express these things is so valuable and so important, because if creation is just the universe trying to express itself, then creative artists have been chosen or have chosen to be the exit point for those ideas, which is so exciting and beautiful. And yeah, I think that this book kind of holds artists in a light that is so forgiving and human and grounded, and I think that everybody should read it. I have met a lot of artists who feel like they are perfectionists and feel like they can't release things that they don't wholly believe in because of one little thing that feels off to them. And I think that this book will encourage people in that mindset, because perfectionism feels unrealistic for human beings. I think we're aware of what we think perfectionism is, but I don't think it's something that's accessible for human beings. And I don't think we should try. I think we're here to make mistakes. I think we're here to just flail around for a little bit and find the beauty in that flailing. So if any of this sat with you well, this book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, is hyper encouraging to creative artists. I'd check it out if I were you. It's a thicker book, but the thing about this is that the chapters are really short, some of them only being like 2 pages long. So it's really consumable, it's really digestible, and some of the points in it are just, they hit home, and it has changed the way that I create, it has changed the way that I work, it has changed the way that I hike. Like, it has just, I love when concepts kind of just like bleed into your life throughout all these different veins, and The Creative Act, A Way of Being certainly did so. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Chapter 1 podcast. I know that I took a little bit of a break just to exactly what I've gone over in this episode, rest and recover, and I feel like coming back with this book has been really, really fun for me. Check out The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.